I'm gonna mute myself just for a little bit, because, again, Arma does not really handle triple digits in general too well. The only times it works pretty okay is when you, have a really powerful or chunky server, and you, just constantly update it and restart it. That's why, there are a few communities out there for Arma Life that have servers in the triple digits. Or, actually, I've never seen a King of the Hill server be in the triple digits, but I think they exist. But it's tough with the server complexities there. So we actually are having Indigo, Fox, and Dingo jump up to talk with Martin now. And I think with this amount of delays, there's only going to be 2 rounds. So we'll just have to see how things go. Otherwise, just in another lull here, how is everyone doing? Please give Bart a shout out, his brother Biggie Higgies, please. I don't think Bart's gonna be able to hear me, but let me... Oh, there we go. Let me, here, I will copy your line of text, and I will scroll down. I will poke Bart with it. So I just gotta find him now. Cool. Alright, I'm gonna mute myself.
Mass kicking, whatever.
Yeah, I saw that there was some significant technical issues.
What? Mass kicking? No, guys, it's features. It's just features. Don't worry about it. It just works.
It's a feature that I don't appreciate, because I'm trying to get in the server, and it's not liking me. And I swear to God, if one of the people up top takes it as part of Centaur, I'm going to bust a gasket.
You are connecting to the server right now, so...
Okay. Well, then I'm just going to let it go for 20 minutes.
The thing is that this sort of stuff has started happening a lot ever since the latest Arma patch. And
yeah.
It's an unfortunate reality that we have to deal with now.
It hasn't been that bad for me, and which is kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, but still, yeah, it is frustrating. And
I will say, though, out of the past few weeks of FNF, there haven't been any significant issues. We've all been fine. It's just, I think today is just one of those days where the bandwidth of the server just decides to throw up a fuss, and there's not much we can do about it, so...
It's an intermittent problem. The netcode doesn't make it any better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 20 years old netcode, so...
Yeah, it's approaching its useful age, basically.
Arma is one of those games where updates just happen to break damn near everything.
Yep.
I'm just listening to the relaxing waves. But Liru, I mean, if you want to... Are you in the server, or are you still trying to connect as well?
I am in the server, and I am looking at all these wonderful CSAT people being converted to Russians, and I have so many questions for God. What does LRAS stand for? That's a great question. You see, I have no idea. All I know is it means it's the camera thing that is tied to the 50 cal on the right. I don't know if this is like a thermal camera thing or just a giant spotlight. I would assume it's a thermal camera, but...
I think it is a thermal.
That is an infrared...
an infrared
system. So basically it's a reconnaissance vehicle. I think IR is disabled at FF, so it's not going to be much use, but...
It's just there to be there. Yeah. So, for scouting, but in a map like Sassari, where it's just thick forest that is a little hilly, where it's really hard to see ahead, plus of all this really thick fog here, not really going to be that much of a use unless they get it on a hill and just get lucky watching OPFOR come up. But otherwise, let's look at these AOs first before we look at the infantry kits, because we still have everyone connecting. I'm going to really quick... sorry, I am a little intoxicated, but looking at BLUFOR here, I don't see any desync issues, which is good. And as long as that can be prevented, I think we'll still be able to have a playable op, because it'll just turn up safe start to allow everyone to gradually trickle in here, but otherwise, AO number 2 for Sector 2 is pretty nice. It is a custom-built area here with a nice battle tower. Outside to the south of the sector is a radar dome, but just within the sector here are two nice little military, what are they called? Cargo houses, that's it. So they can always hide someone in there, because with sectors, you got to remember, as long as there is a BLUFOR guy alive, or actually no, just alive, if he is killed or knocked unconscious, then OPFOR is able to take the sector, but as long as one guy is alive, he can pretty much camp anywhere. And I'm trying to look if there's enough room to potentially hide a guy under the cargo houses, and there is, on the eastern side, a little bit of room that he could crawl under and potentially hide. Now, it is a little cheesy, but I've seen worse in PvP for, well, not Friday night fights, but in general. And there's another little slot on the western side of the westernmost house that can also be utilized. But otherwise, I'd assume this tower can be destroyed as well. And these, well, it's a good perimeter wall with the sandbags. But on a hill, you know, you've got to fortify that a bit more, make some more defensive lines. But I could see that being pretty good. Severe, are you on the server?
Not currently. I'm basically following the situation throughout a bunch of streams because I can't connect.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still in the same boat.
Gotcha. All right, just making sure, because I would bounce it to one of you for something else, but I'll carry the conversation. So
well, I will say I'm watching through your stream, and it seems like you're standard Russian versus U.S. Forces, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be boring. Sursari is a very, because it's, you know, kind of a narrow island, you don't have a ton of flanking routes, so it's nice in that regard. And the sense of like action there's still enough room for movement, but it's going to be very direct whatever happens.
yeah, I will say OPFOR can easily come up from the north. There's a little bit of terrain that allows them to get right on top of this AO. As long as they're picking off units from the battle tower with their marksmen. They can also come along the western side and then get right on top of this AO. Or if they want to do something with a little longer engagements, they can focus on the east. However, I think their best bet would be to potentially come up from the western side, pick apart what they can from the hill, which is a bit of a danger zone for them before they get up to this nice rock wall here. But I'd imagine BLUFOR would probably have some forces fortifying this wall to prevent a charge from that side. But in case BLUFOR doesn't, getting right up to that wall, taking it CQC, popping grenades, and then utilizing BTR 80s from afar, because if you look way north, you can actually see some nice spots the BTRs can pull up and engage the battle tower. And the base of the battle tower, while still being in some pretty good secured positions, infantry can come up and clear everything out on that sector. But I'll be curious to see what Bassbeard's game plan is for OPFOR in that AO. Now, let's look at AO number 2 here. This is the one where BLUFOR spawns in. But we basically have two blown-out buildings from Livonia and not much else. A little bit of a rock wall perimeter to the north and to the northwest. It is a little bit on what would this be? A plateau, technically. But it does peter out from the southwest to southeast. So OPFOR, again, they can sneak up from it on it from the south, or they can just try direct assault, utilizing the thick trees to try to get close to this position. But that would be a little risky. It's just a really nice plateau in the sense that the buildings do greatly overwatch the northern approaches. So I think a flank around from the south would be the best call, but admittedly, we're spoiled because we see everything from a bird's eye view. We can zoom in and see everything, but honestly, from the map's perspective, it's really hard to tell the terrain. You can kind of see it with some of the markings here to detect that to the north there is a little bit of a slope downward, but it is not as big as you could be, you think you'd be able to see it compared to looking at it from the Zeus interface. So, I don't know. I think OPFOR is just going to go for Sector 2 first, then stampede over to Sector 1, and BLUFOR just needs to do their best, either I would say all eggs in one basket on Sector 2, or maybe a minimal garrison on Sector 1, while utilizing those M2 Humvees to try to flank around and eliminate OPFOR. In terms of convoys coming in with trucks or the BTR-80s, get some early snipes on that, but BLUFOR is in a little bit of a pickle defense-wise here, because yes, they've got some good positions, but OPFOR also has a lot of maneuvering room to get on top of these positions. And yes, there is a single marksman on both sides within a group called X-Ray. So you got that right here for BLUFOR. They're already on a quad bike, or at least one of them is coming up, but the marksman isn't on either of those guys. Again, Azariah here, lone survivor, is BLUFOR command, and OPFOR is going to be Bassbeard as the command. Yep. I don't know who his marksman is. It's not sequential, so the objectives can be taken in any order. I believe Fred is the marksman for OPFOR. Yep, he's got the SVD. Looking up at aim at the stars. That's what his new name is with the censored word.
I love
that
so much.
Well, that makes sense because you got the asterisk to indicate stars, but rest in peace, aim at the balls. Hello, aim at the stars. But
I'm excited to see what Basebeard does.
I am in assaulting this AO, but I will also be curious to see how Azariah defends the AO. Because I will say, Azariah, he is a member of TSB. He is one of our T4s, so he is one of our best players in that community. And he has had years of not only ground commanding, but being on the squad level and knowing some of these AOs inside and out. But I will say he's never been on this map before in TSB, so he doesn't have any experience commanding there, but he has a lot of leadership experience, especially for defensive AOs. Against very malicious Zeus's like myself, so I think he's going to be very quick on his feet to adapt to what Bassbeard can throw at him. And Bassbeard, he's no rookie either. He has done a lot of commanding jobs. He organizes a once-a-month massive multi-community Zeus op now, and he usually tries to stick in the ground command or even the Zeus role for that, so he will know how to attack this AO, and I think Azariah will know how to defend it. So I think we're in for a treat here for this first round.
I think it's going to come down to how BLUFOR decides to defend those sectors, in the sense that if they go for a very centralized approach, they're concentrating all their combat power into a very small area and hoping that OPFOR makes the choice to attack that particular point. It looks like they are leaving some guys down at the southern area, so if they're splitting their strength, it's going to come down to what Basebeard decides to do with his armored vehicles. If you'll notice, OPFOR has a lot of these vehicles that withstand gunfire very well, and using the roads for maneuvering forces with those vehicles will allow OPFOR to get to those areas very quickly, and if their attack is violent enough, it could potentially overwhelm a lightly defended sector very quickly. The big thing is that to note is that the roads actually connect to the southern sector as well. So if Basebeard decides that hill up there is not so great for him to take, he can just drive past the BLUFOR defense. Because if you'll notice right now, it's safe start. The BLUFOR guys are all in their little blue box.
Yep.
The road that connects to the southern sector is so far completely unobserved. And if it remains that way during the rest of the game, what could happen is that Sector 1 in the south comes under attack from a motorized force.
Yep.
And because those vehicles withstand gunfire, they can actually drive through the BLUFOR defense quite effectively and dismount directly under the point.
I think with what I'm seeing so far in the troop movement is Azariah is going for an all eggs in one basket approach to defense, putting almost all of his forces on the northern sector here at number 2, while he's leaving a light defensive force over at sector 1. Whether or not this is people spawning in or actually staying here, though, is anyone's guess. But again, I wouldn't be surprised seeing an all eggs in one basket approach here, because this hill, as long as they add a little bit of fortifications, which you actually see them doing, on the western approach, which I was calling out as probably one of the best ways OPFOR could come up and hit this AO, getting close enough, these added defensive lines are going to do BLUFOR a lot of good here. But the one issue with it, though, is more often than not in Friday Night Fights, the attacking force usually wins the first firefight, because they have the numbers advantage, they're able to overpower everything. they will break through. And the only times they don't break through is when the defending force has some sort of large flanking group, which we normally see with Scandi Recon, come around and start hitting the force on the side, which forces that group to go for a different objective and come back to it last. I don't see the flanking force being prepped, but Az could still have them on reserve right now, just using them to add into this defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see how it goes. Maybe they're being held in reserve on the first sector to the south. I do see T5 Bay here. He is with some of his own guys and some TSB members, so we'll have to see how that goes.
By the way, Liru, I'm in the server finally.
Nice. Severe, you on the server yet?
I was going to hit escape and change profile, but then when I did that, it pushed me into the role selection screen, so I'm not going to question it.
Nice.
It says it's full for me, so I'm still hanging around outside. I may be able to connect through the second round. We'll see.
Righto.
And by the way, Liru, I'm going to be on the ground for the third round with Scandi.
All right, good luck.
Since you did your round last week, I'll do a round this week.
That sounds good, man. Good luck.
Thank you. But yeah, like you were saying with that stuff on the western approach to Sector 2, I like where they set up this bunker. I just wish that they had chosen the other bunker. We've seen it before where, they've chosen the 2 entrance bunker for some reason, but the 1 entrance one I believe would have been a much better choice in being able to get a more 180 or even wider field of view and field of protection on this approach. But the terrain does lend itself beautifully to the defenders' entrenchments here.
I see what you mean. I think they, it's either a mistake on their end, which is more likely, or they might be trying to bait OPFOR into going through that doorway, because you get this nice grouping of open field right here, and there's so many eyes from various fortifications they've built, or from the AO that can watch it. So, we don't really talk about it that much, actually, but there is a little bit of a mental game in these AOs, and you've been on the ground like a long time ago, and I was on the ground last week, but there is actually like a little bit to think about in that regard, because I remember when I was on the ground last week, I watched a lot of my teammates walk into ambushes that were very cleverly placed by the defending faction. So it's games like these that the defending faction can set up, which can catch a few additional bad guys out of position. And if they eliminate them, that's slowly getting rid of the attacking faction's number advantage. And if the defending faction can make it even, or better still, get the numbers advantage, that's going to greatly increase their chances of winning, especially in the opening moments of first contact. So we'll have to see how that all goes. Can you revive? Yes.
Kind of a calculated risk.
Only if they're down, though.
Part of BLUFOR.
Yeah.
Eggs in one basket thing, because if all of their troops are in close defense and none are pushed up to the roadways, we'll see after save start. Obviously right now they can't leave that box, but if they end up staying here in this type of scheme, they're giving up a lot of opportunities for conducting active defense, and active defense and maneuver is what wins in these types of fights.
Yep.
Absolutely. Having that maybe as a launch that out with Scandi Recon or some other team. 4IB is what seemed to be building and holding this northwestern sector, and we've mentioned them a number of times before, but they are, I'd say, near the caliber of Scandi Recon as far as, like, they are professional, they know what they're doing, as you can tell by, like, how well they've built this little H barrier enclosure, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But I have faith in this group up here on the northwest. You see Az talking to Schmidt right now, who's leading 4IB.
What?
But I definitely agree with you that they're going to need some kind of active force, and it looks like Infidel, maybe Dusty, Sam C, and Thorup might be doing something as well. They've already, wow, look at Infidel's position. They've somehow fucked...
Yeah, the quad bike is dancing. Desync dancing. That
is concerning.
That is probably one of those assets that needs to be deleted.
Maybe. It's a vanilla asset, so no mod would be causing that, but...
The only thing I can think of is someone had a weird internet connection, crashed into this, and or was on it, and their internet connection stayed with the asset. Which sounds really weird, but I've seen this before, like a long time ago. Yeah, like that's the only thing I can think of, because I remember Andruza and TSB, sometimes when he would leave a car because of his South African internet, the car would just start doing really weird desync stuff. That's what my mind jumps to.
Internet.
Yeah, so I don't fucking know.
It's
Like,
moving in a perfect circle.
it is.
I know, right?
Welcome to Arma
It
3.
was constant, but it's jumping, and Sal might get eaten here if he's not careful.
What
No,
is
he's
this?
walking away. That is wild. Okay.
I would strongly recommend people stay away from this SCP.
Definitely. So I mean, by
Done with that up yesterday, damn it.
I'm gonna take this seriously though. By putting an SCP to the northern part of BLUFOR's defense, you got to consider they actually haven't set up that many defenses to their northeast. So by making this into like a landmine per se, if OPFOR thinks that this is like fascinating or strange, again, back to the mental games of Friday Night Fights, they could go up
This is
and
the perfect explanation.
exactly, because OPFOR could walk up wondering what this is all about, and then the Vic teleports into them and just kills them instantly, because that's how Arma works, you know, wink wink. But, you know, again, free kills for BLUFOR would be absolutely great for BLUFOR's side here to, again, get the numbers advantage and just win the round.
So are we confirming now that BLUFOR is the Global Occult Coalition and Red4 is the SCP Foundation?
I think
BLUFOR
that
has
would
been
be a
able to
safe bet.
wrangle and,
Definitely.
And bring an SCP onto their side as another form of static defense to guard, like you said, this northern side.
You know, so the quad bikes, they were officially in the defensive roster, so I think OPFOR, they were slightly tipped off about this play, but I don't think they're going to be able to predict this one, because it's really rare to see an SCP defense play in Friday Night Fights, but when they happen,
This is what
they
I
have...
mean when these people are experienced. 4
Oh,
IDs,
definitely.
these people
Yeah.
know what they're doing with the engine, with the game itself.
Mm-hmm. And it's really great when you see them make advanced manipulation plays like this. It creates a pseudo minefield that will absolutely mindfuck OPFOR when they come up and see this. And that delay of them processing...
Minefield.
When they come up and see this, they will think an extra half second to wonder what the hell is going on with that asset. Just enough time for someone like Nemesis to shoot them in the face with his machine gun. Though Nemesis is only taking a rifle today, so he's going to be a lot more precision-based, which means he'll be aiming for the head with that gun and easily rack up at least a dozen kills.
Yeah, you know the Old Man DLC? That was actually modeled after Nemesis's performance in FNF.
Wow, that's probably not true, but I'll believe you.
Hey, don't call Nemesis an old man.
You're right, but we can talk about his lust for Yanni's mom. I think the mission just started.
Yes, it did. They added
I
some
could be
extra
wrong.
time on the clock for safe start because of the server issues, but yes,
Yes, this can be destroyed.
Safe start.
And Shade Shadow, thanks for a 28-month resub.
And we're actually seeing a lot
keep
of
enjoying the
that
ups.
active
Hope you get a
defense
kick out of this.
going on almost like a star pattern to the north, to the northwest, to the southwest, and to the east, and a little bit to the northeast as well. So they are doing that and keeping a small home guard of sorts, but they
Take
are
a look. See those armored vehicles?
for Red4.
Yeah, the BTRs almost just crashed into each other, but they're fully loaded with dudes right now. I don't see BLUFOR taking their Humvees to be sporadic. They've got them on the MSR to the right of Sector 2. I think keeping them in reserve to potentially flank in the rear. But with BLUFOR sending all these forces out, that does open the opportunity for BLUFOR to outflank OPFOR's attack, which more often than not does force the attacking faction back, which is going to be great for an all eggs in one basket approach. So I would be willing to say, yep.
I do want to mention the route that the BTRs are going. If they continue on that southeast MSR, they will run right into Owen and Quickie, an auto rifleman and an AT. Quickie only has an M72, so he can only take out one of those BTRs. But yeah, the saw on
gonna be a tough range.
Quickie's possession could shred an entire squad riding on the back of them. And here they are coming down now. They should be able to hear them soon.
I am watching through Quickie's eyes here. BTRs are starting to dismount, but they're behind some trees. But he is looking right into the infantry here. I'm not sure if he spots them or not.
All the infantry is dismounting. They're doing some good security, not just lazing about.
And you turn away at the worst possible time.
That's good to see.
So Quickie's now sprinting down, but he turned away at the worst possible time as the group was dismounted. He's now talking with his other dude. And still looking away, but now he's running down a little bit more. I'm trying to see if he'll get the spot on this OPFOR dismount.
They should be able
They
to...
do now hear the BTRs, though.
They absolutely do, and they are adjusting, maybe. Also, it says Owen is an auto rifleman, but he just has an M4. That's weird.
I think he switched out his gun with someone else. Quickie is taking out his law. He hasn't prepped the law yet. Here's the prep on the law. He's going to go for an early BTR snipe. This is going to be risky, though, because of all that infantry. He's going to wait behind a bush here.
Let's give him a warm welcome, shall we?
Oh, he's peeking out, trying to get that shot from here.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's gonna have quite the angle. He just needs
Yeah,
to...
he didn't have it on the road right there, so he's actually pulling back a little bit, trying to get into cover, thinking maybe there's an infantry screen coming up with this. But we also have Lord Lust looking around. OPFOR X-Ray is just below that hill, but BLUFOR has a lot of room here to send forces out. Now, what's really curious is OPFOR has a lot of their force in reserve. I want to say at least a third of it on the beach. I'll be curious to see what they do with that later, but knowing Bassbeard, he's probably going to try to send them to Sector 1 when the Sector 2 attack hits to do a pincer attack, and then because there's no defenders on BLUFOR's side for Sector 1, they'll end up becoming a flanking force to hit from the south. So that's a really clever play, but now we're having infantry coming up to Quickly's position. And I think Quickly spotted them, is immediately running away because he was within like 20 meters of, not even 10 meters of OPFOR. And OPFOR are guns up.
Yeah, they don't really have a safe manner of getting away. Redfor's gonna crest this hill, and Daniel might be the first to spot them here.
Yep, I'm watching Paladin's POV right now.
Daniel, I believe, did spot them. He's looking at where he last saw them as they disappeared behind the foliage in those bushes. So now they've come back up to this 4IB squad up here. They're entrenching with some trenches, and they'll have a decent position. And they open fire. Takes down Nordy.
Nice shot. 4IB raining out from the hill. Grenadier round coming up, insta-killing one of the 4IB guys.
Damn, yeah, must have hit him in the face or something. Damn.
Nasty fire going on. OPFOR trying to pop smoke and pull back here. Both sides suffering a few casualties from this, but that was a great opening barrage from 4IB, downing quite a few guys on OPFOR's position. A shame that they lost a guy in the opening barrage, though.
Notice how they placed their position on a slight elevation. They're not on
Yep.
the hill where you would expect them to be, but they are on that trail leading up on like a platform on that hill, and they have an excellent view down to that road.
The person they killed was Manford, and he had a 203, so they need to try and pick that up and replace one of their basic M4s.
But Severe, I do agree with you. Really good positioning there. Gives them the high ground, no pun intended. And they can easily see all of OPFOR as they try to move up to that position. And that's why OPFOR quickly pulled back, realizing that there was a force on that ridge.
Yeah, this attack here, this initial infantry push by OPFOR is a failure.
Yes.
And speaking of failures, Dryden is blue-on-bluing Scandi Recon.
Yep, Dryden and Gorski are firing right into BLUFOR. They just knocked Deander out. Bart quickly trying to pop some smoke grenades. They are unaware of where they're being shot at here. And that is a big failure on BLUFOR's end.
Now Galil is opening up on them with the M2.
That is not good for BLUFOR.
Unfortunate.
Friendly fire is anything but.
And now we're seeing OPFOR moving that beach offensive over, and it looks like they are coming to the south to try to attack the western side of Sector 1. So we will see that flank come around, and I would suspect we'll see Sector 1 taken in about 10 to 15 minutes.
I believe Ads has spotted Dryden's mistake and is reprimanding him as he is observing his direction of fire.
Yeah, I can see that. He's there with binos right now, yelling at Dryden to hold.
And yeah, we have this big fight coming on the west side. Surprisingly, yeah, Red Fort, they haven't moved too much from
Maz is out of action.
They pulled back from where they were attacking on the hillside to their BTRs, and just kind of firing up into the woods from there. But they need to maneuver, or at the very well. Actually, now that I say that, that strike force that was on the western beach, they're now moving to the south, trying to either go for Sector 1 or do a flank on Sector 2. We'll see. But it has definitely drawn the attention of most of this BLUFOR defending force.
I will say BLUFOR has done a really good job of making an additional battle line outside of the sector itself, keeping OPFOR in this valley here, preventing them from moving. The only relief OPFOR is going to get at this point is if they somehow get a few lucky headshots to make BLUFOR push back to the sector, or when OPFOR's force comes around and takes the southern sector at Sector 1 and then starts putting pressure from the south to make BLUFOR separate their forces.
That, I think, is the only choice that OPFOR has right here. The other one is that they remount into those BTRs and vehicles and begin maneuvering. If they move straight down south, down that road, those guys up on the hill, they can't do anything about it.
So by the way, X-Ray for OPFOR is down to 2 people because Scandi Recon and other forces have started engaging them. We also see 2 BLUFOR guys, 4IB coming up to potentially catch this X-Ray group out of position here. But a little bit of that outflank going on from BLUFOR's force to try to catch OPFOR groups and cut them off and eliminate them to gain some free kills. Yep.
Looks like that main force, they're loading back up into their BTRs, so they're either going to pull back and attack from a different direction, or possibly push forward down south. I guess we'll have to see, but
I do agree with that decision, though, because they're pretty much stuck right there. BLUFOR has really good defensive lines. What they need to do is, I would say, keep a force there to just fire back at them to distract them from the southern attack coming. But I think they're going to push north and potentially try to come from the northeast instead to test another flank.
Red 4 X-Ray. Sorry. We do have Hasinger now south of Scandi Recon crawling up a side of a hill.
Yep, he does have an LR as well. He could try to flank around, but Scandi Recon, I'm going to be honest, they are one of the most feared groups in Friday Night Fights. They pull really good security. It's really hard to catch them off guard, and they're just a force to be reckoned with. So, really hard to get the drop on them, but Hasinger is a good player in his own right. I think he would be the type to get it done, but we already see Scandi Recon pulling away to assault on a different flank, and Hasinger, again, doesn't have eyes on, so he's going to continue to be stealthy here.
So he knows that someone is here.
But you already see him.
Just 10 seconds too late. He would have seen him otherwise.
There's a reason. There's a reason why.
Isn't there?
Actually, it's a rock. And some fallen trees. No one in Scandi Recon or its affiliate groups died in this area. You do see some bandages from when Leander got tapped, but they brought him back. But again, there is a reason why.
You can't teach that. You can't teach that kind of timing. And
well, it's not even teaching it. It's just luck. And now you have Galil firing at friendly forces again, because reasons.
It's Neil and Hudson now who are AT, which they need desperately. I don't know what he's doing. He's not looking.
Well, you got to admit, like, Galil's on iron sights right now. It's really hard to see up ahead. That's where, they had hostile forces previously. It's just 2 4IB guys trying to flank around. What I'm really curious to see is if Scandi Recon predicts the outflank that OPFOR is trying to do, will they set up an ambush? I think they're just pulling back instead to be on this flank. And there's the pop-up.
There's a lot of Finns in Scandi Recon, and it's a safe bet that at least those guys understand that if a motorized force is moving from a road and it suddenly disappears, it's going somewhere else and trying to find a way around you.
Definitely.
There is definitely that sisu from that is ingrained in every Finn. So when they hear the words "Compagnia Saheritus," they know shit's going down.
You're triggering some sort of latent PTSD in me when you say that.
You can blame Yanni. He taught me what that phrase means. You can blame Yanni for that shit.
So OPFOR, we're just double tapping a body on X-Ray's position, just making sure he's dead. So someone did potentially die in that friendly fire, or they were killed in the firefight with X-Ray's forces, but they are checking his body to see what's going on. It is important to note that Rolo did loot the marksman rifle from Fred, though, so OPFOR still has their long-range engagements, but now they are being engaged from the defensive garrison. Hassinger under fire. He gets hit and is trying to hide behind a tree stump here to try to figure out what hit him. And they're also firing at Rolo as well.
There is a dead U.S. guy right next to Hassinger. I don't know who he's from.
So, Scandi Recon is actually pulling back to take the southern defense line from OPFOR forces that have come from the south, and we also do see that BLUFOR is still proactively keeping their forces on the northwest flank, but they have sent 3 4IB guys up to check to see if OPFOR is still here, which they are not. So Azurai is going to get this information, and he might pull some of his western defense lines into other positions, but his hand will be forced very soon when OPFOR finishes this dismount and re-attack from a new sector from, I would assume, directly north, maybe slight northeast. But this is what I was excited about between Azurai and Bassbeard, because again, you got 2 really well-seasoned commanders from both PvE and PvP, and they're going to use their knowledge to give it their best shot here to try to win this fight.
No, I'm getting in my chat some questions about why didn't they garrison that the first sector, the southern one, with even just a small garrison force. With the amount of Red Fort that went down there, it probably wouldn't have been a worthwhile investment. They would have been killed, and you can't accurately predict how many that small force would have killed. And if it was Scandi or 4IB, that would have just been a waste. So I completely agree with them kind of doing this all eggs in one basket in a much better defensible position.
I do agree with that. Normally, when you have things like terminals, which the area is very condensed, you know where OPFOR has to be, or the attacking faction, excuse me, to activate the terminal to get the prompt, so you know when to det your charge. Sectors, it's a bit tougher because it's just a giant area, so you don't know if they're going to come from the northern side, the southern side, east, west, so it's really hard to gauge where to put your explosive trap on. So you really don't see any garrisons on AOs that the defending faction doesn't want to defend at all, because there's just no way that they can push it to their advantage, especially with something like explosive traps, which you rarely see in FNF, but when you do see them, they have a 50-50 of either being completely inappropriate or extremely effective. And as I say that, we've got T5 Bay's little team here engaging some OPFOR forces coming up. They actually managed to kill somebody next to Tom right there. So a good pick off from that group already. Again, BLUFOR on the high ground here, so they're able to overwatch a lot of this area as OPFOR is coming up. And
getting some accurate fire from under that tree. That's dirty, but that's great shooting.
That's a good spot to be in, definitely. But I will be curious to see how this northern group comes in to alleviate some of the south, because you already see forces on the far northwest flank for BLUFOR starting to fold in to take defensive lines for the south.
Ola Holton, gunner for Johansson in that 50 cal Humvee, just got sniped. 1 bullet took them down.
Nice.
Now Johansson's pulling back in to try and find a replacement. We do also have on the east-northeastern side another force coming in. That X-ray group for OPFOR has been spotted and are taking some heavy suppressing fire, but these BTRs with about 30 people in them are now pulling up on this eastern MSR from Sector 2. So they're going right into Gorskowski and 1RW as well.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Charlie for OPFOR put an RPG in one of the M2 Humvees here. It is now smoking. I don't see anyone dead in it yet, though. But they are attacking from the southwestern corner. OPFOR is going to go for a 3-pronged attack here. And those BTRs are going to come in the best opportune time, because now you got BLUFOR with this Echo group trying to flank the southern group here, but they're going to start hearing those BTRs coming up, and those BTRs are going to dismount a good chunk of force to come in and put pressure on BLUFOR from 3 different directions. I think that's going to stretch BLUFOR too thin here, and you already have those BTRs now firing on the tower, making sure it is cleared out so this main force can come up. So BLUFOR is in a bit of a pickle right now.
I agree, but I'm this is a decent-sized force for a three-pronged attack from Red 4. I'm concerned mainly for OPFOR on this eastern attack because, like we mentioned, it is that open terrain that's some hills, some cover, some concealment, but not a lot compared to the western and southern approaches. So if BLUFOR is able to react,
and they're being rushed over.
Sandy and 4AB primarily on this southern side, if they're able to pull back and start getting some fire on the northeastern attack, especially taking out those 2 BTRs, that could shut down this whole flank for Red 4.
The tactical error that BLUFOR I think has made here is that they've repositioned all the guys that they had on the initial contact all the way over to the other side of their little base. And what's happening now is because they gave up all that ground, you've got OPFOR on 3 different sides pushing in, and they can quite effectively shoot into that little hilltop without having to worry too much about, getting flanked.
Johansson's pulled back into base with his Humvee, taking a bunch of fire, but that armored Humvee is up to the task. Galil looks like he's going to hop in the gunner seat now.
So real quick, on the western attack by OPFOR's Charlie team, they are being engaged by some 4IB guys that try to come around, but 2 out of those 3 4IB guys are already dead, but they got a few licks in here, getting some kills and knockouts on Shima, for example. But BLUFOR has a lot of forces here to kind of stop that weapons team from coming in. The real fear, though, is this massive concave you're starting to see coming from the east and north of the sector itself. You're starting to see people getting picked off from those BTR-80s from range. Eander, who I believe is the MAT team gunner, is doing his best to try to find an angle, but it's just too far of a range here, and there's too many roving hills for him to get any good shots. So I think OPFOR's main attack is going to keep pushing from this flank here, and BLUFOR, while they do have a good defensive line here, I think they're going to get a little overpowered here unless they push some of their BLUFOR guys that are defending on the southwestern flank to come up and join the central garrison.
Notice that the BTRs are being used in a doctrine true fashion, which is that the infantry is in front of the BTRs and the BTRs are overhead. Usually what we see at FNF is doctrine radical, which means the BTR is used for whatever purpose that people see fit.
More often than not, though, that usually results in the BTR getting screwed, but here, Basspear's done a really good job of having his BTRs parked in the spot to deny BLUFOR some of their overwatch positions to allow his infantry to continue to push up here on this, the northeastern flank. We also see a lot of smokes being popped by one of those groups, but they are taking some heavy suppressive fire here, so they're not able to move. Those BTRs need to continue to fire on that battle tower to pin those guys on higher elevations to allow OPFOR's forces to move up. But we do have Indigo Fox pushing up solo right now, and he actually just got someone picked off in one of the bunkers. Great shot there.
Yeah, next to Dryden, that was...
Wasn't him, though. Someone else.
I thought it wasn't in the bunker, but I think I saw the arrow go
yeah, it might have been the 50 cal Humvee, but someone definitely got flicked off there.
Yeah, it was, because I think that must have been Galil then.
Using the micro-terrain, like what the Indigo Fox is doing right now, is fairly a good way to get across that field there. But I feel like OPFOR has kind of done themselves a disservice right now, because the element that was initially on the south side has now moved to the east side. Instead of being attacked from 3 sides, now they're only attacking from 2, one of which is covered by an open field that the infantry cannot ready to cross.
Hold up, Vonk now charging up for OPFOR, completely bypassing BLUFOR's lines. There's a hole in the fence. He just picked off 2 people. Eander now pulling back. He's going to get shot in the back of the head, though. He is also down. BLUFOR still has no idea.
No one has turned around.
No one's noticed.
Eander's gone down.
BLUFOR is now pushing back from this position. Iota getting picked off from Vonk as well. Again, he is one of the toughest players.
Anyone else? Someone finally spotted Vonk. He goes down from either Cooper or Rod. Bunch of
I think that was Gazag based off of the tracers, but he just made BLUFOR completely push off of that line as well as hit a lot of dudes on that defensive line, allowing for the Bravo squad to push up, but they are still heavily pinned from defensive forces outbound. So those BTRs really need to step up and give me some assisted suppressive fire on this AO.
this is the perfect opportunity for those BTRs to really press the envelope on this, pushing it through that eastern side, and giving both the Red 4 Bravo and Red 4 Echo that breathing room to get out of there. As I say that, though, AT goes out, and I think actually hit the gas.
It hit the gas, yeah, not the BTRs, though. So unlucky there for BLUFOR.
Yeah, lucky for the BTRs, because that would have definitely taken out. Second one goes out. I think
that is AT from OPFOR, which just went over. Another AT shot goes out, though, by a different guy hitting the tower itself. Looking at the map here, BLUFOR and OPFOR have a similar amount of skulls, so OPFOR is still going to have that numbers advantage. But BLUFOR is down to the internal perimeters here. As I say that, we have, who is this over here? Falcon is pushed up and trades with Flux in 3 shots a person.
By Red 4 X-Ray, Hazinger and Rolo almost getting taken or hit by it, but it's just far enough away and just enough in cover to where it's ineffective.
Real quick though, you got Alpha 1 for OPFOR pushing up. They've hit a few sentries on the outer perimeter. Some flares going out as well. Grenades going out as well there. And they're going to be able to get right on top of this perimeter and eventually, essentially outflank some of the BLUFOR guys.
Reaper, though, he's on this rock. He's going to be able to spray these guys down if he were to notice.
And he gets taken out by Lusod.
He was looking that way. I think he might have heard the voices, but he wasn't pressing it. Smith saw him go down, though, so he's trying to get revenge. But he gets crippled pretty quickly. They need to react.
Lusod now pushing.
Kobe
immediately kills him and goes prone to do a quick reload, but he gets tapped, I think, by Owen right there, as Mike now pushes the flank and is engaging Owen, knocks him out there.
Jeez. This is a very effective push from Alpha 1 on the southern side.
Yeah, and then you have Bassbeard on the rear here, actually suppressing into some of BLUFOR here so they can't watch this angle effectively, but now you have Mapnura coming around. He might spot aim at the ball, definitely notices Owen's down, and now gets in a firefight with Buckets. Buckets also being flanked by, I think, Nelson on the battle tower. RPG coming in from Charlie 2 on a BLUFOR position to the northwest.
Yeah, I think it was on the bunker. They were trying to get it right inside, but they weren't quite able to get it. It's a very small target, about the size
Buckets
of the
bandaging. Now you got Bay Potato coming up with that PKM and immediately smacks somebody. Mapnura trying to challenge him. I think Bay Potato ran out of ammo there.
Nelson and Floyd need to get out of there.
Battle tower is now showing its damage texture, so a few more rockets will take it out.
I think 1, maybe 2 more.
Mapnura gets knocked out. Aim at the stars, quote unquote, is now firing at the northern defensive line to the northwest. And OPFOR is slowly encircling this position. You got Indigo Fox crawled up to this one position. Moxbrin, though, he's in the little crate right next to him with the wall slightly open, but Indigo Fox throwing some really well-placed grenades, doing some damage, killing Dryden, actually.
Brandy needs to look out to the north. He needs to see this group before they get close to this entrance, because it is made for this group from Red 4 that are trying to push around here.
And Indigo Fox gets a second grenade kill on Brandy and double taps the other guy just to be safe, but now he's getting taken shots from Gazag. He is crippled and taken out by Gazag there. Well, meanwhile, BLUFOR's southern attack has been pretty much nullified.
Red 4, but yes, Banks is now holding one,
My bad.
there. I think he was the one who took down Lasada and Buckets, so he's now sending grenades over southwest towards Red 4 Charlie. And here we go on that northern side. They are pushing up to the to this barricade, trying to find a way in. Dust Eye is not aware of where this fire is coming from.
Yep, taking some shots from Jonathan.
He almost pays for it with his life. Emzikov, Benda, and Broken, they push over this rock. They're going to be able to take down Eyes Blue quickly.
Brendan getting knocked out. Yep. BLUFOR, I feel like, could weather this storm because OPFOR is running out of manpower. And it's just from fighting all these different flanks and BLUFOR having a really good 360 here.
And BLUFOR's in a big...
Still could go either direction.
I'm pretty sure Iander's Maz was left behind in that trench line to the east. I'm trying to look for his body.
This guy's getting a good kill right there. Aim at the balls, taking out that guy.
They did him. That's a big AT asset.
Jonathan getting knocked out as well.
Be able to utilize.
now that the fight is in the wire, so to speak, so the enemy is within 5 to 10 meters, that it has changed the dynamic. So now it's a question of independent BLUFOR squads in their own independent positions being able to deflect the attacks from.
Amethyst Star's getting another kill.
Into the perimeter. And because OPFOR's organization has fallen apart, it's a bunch of small groups of improvised assault teams, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
OPFOR cleans up these two guys, Hassinger and Amethyst Stars.
Actually taking this northern sector, so they have a way in. Tackleberry and Moxie are going to be the only ones holding them from pushing in further. And Tackle needs to get on the other side of these trenches. So they're like perfectly made for him, but he's just not using them.
So I just want to point out, Hassinger and Aim at the Balls did a really good job clearing out the remaining BLUFOR. Wow.
Going down from Tackleberry's grenade. That was amazing. Yeeted that shit. Oh my god, that was great. Sorry, I kind of interrupted you, but that was worth interrupting for.
No, you good. I've noticed grenades have been doing a lot more damage. I think that's just luck of the draw, but...
They did say that they upped it by another 50%.
Nice.
So yeah.
Skip now trying to run into the sector, almost taken out by the T5 group. I don't know. I think OPFOR just has a really nasty numbers advantage here, and I'm not sure BLUFOR is going to be able to bounce back. Azariah just picked off and killed.
Yeah, I feel like the decision to pull the defense in so early and reducing the amount of stuff that they had going on outside the perimeter really helped OPFOR with their assault here.
They're pushing in hard on the west. Big envelope coming in on the western side, and I think this might be it for BLUFOR. Like you said, they've been able to reorganize a bit. Nim goes down.
Fox taking out a kill. Nice.
Guy Fieri coming around the side. Rod's medicing. Nim wakes back up. But she's not able to...
Caden is double tapping Nim. Yep.
Yeah, I think this is...
Copper getting suppressed by the BTR 80. And a grenade goes off in there.
Christensen's actually
He's taken
out
out.
The sector, so once he goes down, assuming he goes down, especially when he gets shot in the back of the head, that's...
There it is.
So, I wouldn't quite call it clean. It was a bit of a back and forth, but...
It was back and forth at the beginning, but when BLUFOR pulled their lines too early, I think that was the nail in the coffin right there.
I don't think they pulled their lines too early, more so that they got disorganized, and like Severe mentioned, they were just able to... Redford was able to poke so many holes in the BLUFOR defense.